Hey everybody, how's it going out there? My name is Daniel and I'm sincerely glad that you're here. Welcome back to episode 22 of Living the Creative Act, a little book club discussing the Creative Act by Rick Rubin. It's been a life-changing book club for at least me so far, and hopefully for you as well. Let's just hop straight into the reading. It's a bit of a longer one today. The section is called Completion. He writes, as the work improves through the craft phase, you'll come to a point where all of the options available to you have been explored sufficiently. The seed has achieved its full expression, and you've pruned it to your satisfaction. Nothing is left to add or take away. The work's essence rings clear. There's a sense of fulfillment in these moments. From here, we advance into the final movement of the creative process. In the completion phase, we leave behind discovery and building. With the beautiful volume of material crafted before us, the final form is refined to be released into the world. The finishing touches and fine-tuning are different for every project. They may be as simple as putting a frame on a painting, color correcting a film, tweaking a song's final mix, or rereading a manuscript to make sure the phrasing is just right. As with the other stages of the creative act, the completion phase isn't a clear line you cross in a forward journey. In the process of preparing your work to share, you may realize there's more to be done. A revision, an addition, a deletion, or some other change may be called for. So you step back to craft or experiment and work your way forward once more. We can think of the completion phase as the last stop on an assembly line. The finished piece is examined to ensure it meets our highest standards. If it doesn't meet them, you send it back to be improved. Once it does, you sign off on it, let it go, and begin the next chapter of your life's work, whatever that may be. Once you feel a project is close to completion, it can be helpful to open the work to other perspectives. The primary aim is not to receive notes or opinions. This is your work, your expression. You are the only audience that matters. The intention is for you to experience the work anew. When playing music for someone else, we hear it differently than when we listen to it ourselves. It's as if borrowing a second set of ears. We're not necessarily looking for an outside perspective. We are more interested in widening our own. If we write an essay and give it to a friend, before even hearing their perspective, our relationship to the work changes. Give it to a mentor, and our perspective shifts in a different way. We interrogate ourselves when we offer our work up to others. We ask the questions we didn't ask ourselves when we were making it. Sharing it in this limited capacity brings our underlying doubts to light. If someone chooses to share feedback, listen to understand the person, not the work. People will tell you more about themselves than about the art when giving feedback. We each see a unique world. Occasionally, a comment will strike home. It will resonate with something we feel, either in our awareness or just behind it. and we may discover room for improvement. Other times, a judgment will hit a nerve, and we find ourselves defending the work or losing faith. In these moments, it may be helpful to step away, reset, and return with a neutral mind. Criticism allows us to engage with our work in a new way. We may agree, or we may double down on our original instincts. Sometimes a challenge allows us to focus on an aspect of the work and realize it's more important than we previously thought. In the process, we access deeper wells of understanding the work and ourselves. As you collect feedback, the solutions offered may not always seem helpful. Before discarding them, take a moment to see if they're pointing to an underlying problem you hadn't noticed. For example, if there's a suggestion to remove the bridge of a song, you interpret that as, it's worth re-examining the bridge, and then set about looking at it in the context of the entire piece. If you've truly created an innovative work, it's likely to alienate as many people as it attracts. The best art divides the audience. If everyone likes it, you probably haven't gone far enough. In the end, you are the only one who has to love it. This work is for you. When is the work done? There is no formula or method for finding this answer. It is an intuition. The work is done when you feel it is. Although we avoid deadlines early in the process, in the completion phase, a due date could help bring time into focus and support you in completing the work. Art doesn't get made on the clock, but it can get finished on the clock. Some find this phase to be the most difficult part of the process. They resist letting go with a stubborn ferocity. Up until this point, the clay is still soft. Everything can change. Once fixed, we lose control. This fear of permanence is common beyond art. It is known as commitment phobia. When the last chapter is about to end, we may create excuses to put off the completion of the work. It can be a sudden loss of faith in the project, deciding it's no longer good enough. We find flaws that don't really exist. We make inconsequential changes. We sense the distant mirage of some better creative option that hasn't been discovered yet. And if only we just keep working, it might arrive someday. When you believe the work before you is the single piece that will forever define you, it's difficult to let it go. The urge for perfection is overwhelming. It's too much. We are frozen, and sometimes end up convincing ourselves that discarding the entire work is the only way to move forward. The only art the world gets to enjoy is from creators who've overcome these hurdles and released their work. Perhaps still greater artists existed than the ones we know, but they were never able to make this leap. Releasing a work into the world becomes easier when we remember that each piece can never be a total reflection of us, only a reflection of who we are in this moment. If we wait, it's no longer today's reflection. In a year, we may be guided to create a piece that looks nothing like it. There is timeliness to the work. The passing of seasons would dissipate the value the work holds for us. Hanging on to your work is like spending years writing the same entry in a diary. Moments and opportunities are lost. The next works are robbed of being brought to life. How many pages will be left empty because your process was dampened by doubt and deliberation? Keep this question in the front of your mind. It might allow you to move forward more freely. In an environment where nothing is permanent, we produce static artifacts. Mementos of spirit. We hope they'll live forever, holding resonance through each passing decade. Some might, many won't. It's impossible to know. We can only keep building. When you and the work are in sync, there's a time to put it out and move on. Each new project is another opportunity to communicate what's coming through you. It's another chance at bat, another opportunity to connect, another page filled in the diary of your inner life. Concerns about releasing a work into the world may be rooted in deeper anxieties. It could be a fear of being judged, misunderstood, ignored, or disliked. Will more ideas come? Will they ever be this good again? Will anyone even care? The process of letting go is releasing any thoughts of how you or your piece will be received. When making art, the audience comes last. Let's not consider how a piece will be received or our release strategy until the work is finished and we love it. This is different from a work being perfect. We can engage with any of the works we've been a part of and recognize things wrong with them. Maybe we didn't in the moment we finished them, but when looking back, we often do. There are forever changes to be made. There is no right version. Every work of art is simply an iteration. One of the greatest rewards of making art is our ability to share it. Even if there is no audience to receive it, we build the muscle of making something and putting it out into the world. Finishing our work is a good habit to develop. It boosts confidence. Despite our insecurities, the more times we can bring ourselves to release our work, the less weight insecurity has. Avoid overthinking. When you're happy with the work and you're moved to share it with a friend, it might be time to share it with the world as well. This final phase is a fertile time to plant a new crop of seeds. The excitement of what's coming next can generate the vital energy needed to bring the current work to its close. You may find it a struggle to keep yourself focused on the project at hand when new ideas start coming at you. This is a good problem to have. Riding the life force of the project to come often breaks us out of the trance of the present piece. We can't wait to finish because there's another idea calling that lights us up. Oh man, this is such a great section. And hello in the chat there, Cactus. How you doing? Thanks for stopping by. So I guess one of the first things that he talks about is the idea of just sharing it out. changes your view on it. um, the act of sharing it with a friend, no matter what they say, changes your relationship with what you made. And this is something that we we see in programming all the time. And in programming, we call this rubber ducking. When you're debugging something and you're asked for help, the act of asking for help sometimes reveals what the problem is as you kind of get the problem sorted in your mind to communicate it. So this made me think, so is debugging a creative act? Yeah, because the other person you're sharing it with, the idea is you could have talked to a rubber duck. The person said nothing, just listened to you. Hey, Randy, how's it going? Randy says, avoid overthinking. Could be a book by itself. I know, right? Yeah, I've had my experience with that is with phrasing the perfect tweet or toot or like messages in work Slack or messages in work emails. Like sometimes the wording just doesn't matter that much. Yeah, I was working on a message with someone in sales at one of my clients, and I was agonizing over the wording. They're like, people, that doesn't really change the meaning. Just send it out. And she was right. And again, with kind of the idea of rubber ducking, the act of just sharing it out does give you feedback. When I was streaming to an audience of 0, I was still getting feedback of how do I feel about what I'm doing? How do I feel about what I'm saying? Do I like it? Is it fun? Is it exhausting? What can I do to make it less exhausting for me? What can I do to make it more exciting for me? One thing I kept in mind was I would definitely post it to YouTube afterwards. And even if there were 0 people watching live, I wanted people watching it on YouTube to see something, to see my excitement. And that's one thing that kept me motivated. Randy says, yeah, I read my emails like 4 or more times before I send them. Sometimes you'll send an email and you'll see no response from the audience. But you still can think about, like, could I have gone further? I know Hassan Minhaj tells a story about this. He says when you do a live stand-up comedy show, most people laugh at most of the jokes that are mostly funny. Of course, you'll have a few people that don't laugh or think it's hilarious. But online, it's the opposite. People only laugh online if it's actually like ridiculously funny, and if it's a terrible joke, then they respond like, "Wow, that was such a bad joke." The kind of the medium, it kind of gets no response online. Just it's so easy to just keep scrolling by without reacting positively or negatively. And that's kind of a good thing to keep in mind too. If you see no response, it's maybe it was just okay. Now he says, when is it done? It's done when you feel it's done. Uh, yeah, we talked a little bit about this in Discord throughout the week of it's done when you can't add anymore, like because of time constraints or your own ability. And that's kind of been a helpful thing too. Um, I was posting a TikTok yesterday and I felt like, oh, I could have done another take of this, but I literally didn't have time to. So that's the take that I posted. I literally didn't have time to do another take. I didn't necessarily feel it was done, but that's what I could do. And then I love at the end how he says, maybe you're done when you're ready for the next project. Because as you're finishing up a project, you get all these new ideas for new things to do. Or when you're making an app, ideas for the next version of the app. Uh, and that, and he says the excitement for that can help drive you to complete a project. I guess he's sort of holding out starting the new project as a carrot that you really want to do. So just finish this one, say it's done, and get a move on. And this is something that I don't know if I've tried this one exactly. I know like the name full queue talks about the full queue of things that I have to do amongst other meanings. And I guess he's saying that the solution to a full queue is to just mark things as done. Just keep on going. So I'm certainly curious to try that out. I guess particularly with the stuff that I do live, like posting stuff. Um, yeah, at some point I'm like, I don't want to work on this anymore. I need to just hit the go live button, and next time will be better. And he kind of alludes to that earlier in the chapter too of next time will be better. It's just another time at bat. I saw an interview of I think it was David Letterman was chatting up what's his name? Not Steve Carell, the other Steve, Stephen Colbert. And they were both talking about how the joy of doing the Daily Show is that if this one doesn't go out so well, next tomorrow, the next one might be better. And I certainly feel that too. Randy says, this is harder for me to think like this with coding projects, but I can see how this is important for your videos. Yeah, I think when working on Underway, my Subway app, I've certainly used this too when negotiating releases with the people I was working with. Of like, this is a stable version of the screen. Let's ship it so that people can benefit from it, and then let's work to make it better. And sometimes we didn't have energy to make it better, and sometimes we did. But putting something out there, people benefited from the improvements, and we benefited from pushing something out the door. I think apps like they basically update for free now. Like Apple is pretty good about pushing out updates um, of your own apps to people. Randy says, not perfection, but iteration. Yeah, and Apple is a fantastic example of this too. Remember the first iPhone? Didn't have 3G. It was pretty tiny. I think the camera was not HD, if I recall. Um, and year over year, they keep improving it. They improve the chips, they improve the camera, they improve the memory. There's been a few missteps with the whole antenna gate thing. Oh yeah, it didn't even have an app store on version 1. I mean, everyone could see the writing on the wall that it's definitely coming. Just it wasn't there for version 1. And I do find Apple's iteration very inspiring of hitting a target, releasing it, and in the background continuing to make it better so the next one is even better. Like, this is not going to be the last iPhone they ever make. This is not going to be the last Mac they ever make. They're gonna keep making them. Yeah, same with Apple Silicon too. The M1 was been fantastic. The M2 and the M3 are kind of like they are speed bumps. They are better. Uh, it's not a quantum leap though. So I'll probably upgrade. I don't know. Maybe when the M4 or M5 comes out, I'll see. This computer's been doing great for me. This M1. So this is kind of a long section. So let's kind of walk through the chapter again. Everything's been explored sufficiently. The essence rings true. There's nothing left to add. And the final part is completion. Yeah, I guess for software projects, this is like a final run through QA, inviting the friends and family, letting them test things out, like beta testing. BitSpectre says, I want to get an M3 Max if for nothing else than a jump in RAM, but money. Yeah, they are pricey. My current strategy is to upgrade every 4 to 6 years has kind of been my average. Yeah, so you find a bug in QA, so you send it back to experiment on what the hell went wrong, or to think of something better. Yeah, and this is what he kind of goes into at the end, like let it go and begin the next chapter of your life's work, whatever it is. But meeting your highest standards, I feel like my example that I did before of like I didn't have time. This was the best TikTok I could make in the 20 minutes I had. So I made it and I posted it. I don't think it met my highest standards. It met the highest standards I could do in that time frame. So maybe that's what it is. The highest standard that you can do. Because imagine you're learning to draw, or if I finally decide to learn to paint, I'm not going to be able to paint what I have in my head on my first 10 tries. It's just impossible. But if I were to start doing that, I would probably start, posting it in some capacity and move on. Like each one would be done and I would move on. Yeah, and then in the next section of this chapter, he talks about opening it up to other perspectives. And this is where we talked about the rubber ducking. And he kind of alludes to this in the previous chapter and kind of throughout the book. But you're the only audience that matters. Like, you have to love it. It has to be something that you delight in, because I see art as a journey of self-discovery, as a journey of healing, of finding and expressing the God in you, so that others can experience it. Other people can make you food. Other people can bring you a glass of water, but no one can say poop for you, for example. You have to do that. And I feel like in the same way, no one else can know you in the same way that you can know yourself. You have to do that journey for yourself. And how do you do that? You make stuff. You allow that inner part of you to express itself, and you see what it likes. You see what it gets excited about. And so when you decide to finally share that with someone else, you he says, get to experience the work anew, as in you load it up to share. It kind of does force perhaps a tighter eye on how you feel about it. And I love how he makes a distinction between we're not necessarily looking for an outside perspective. You're more interested in widening our own, because as he says, people people share about themselves more than they share about the work. Uh, so it's an opportunity to learn more about the people that you're sharing your work with. And I think kind of in today's world where the customer is always right and you need app store reviews, I feel like people do put a lot of weight on that. Um, but I've kind of always had a problem with it. Like the lean software movement is like, well, if you whatever gets people to pay money, that's what you should do. I'm like, that that's not inspiring. Or like whenever you go to a website, as soon as you land there, you get a pop-up saying subscribe to our newsletter. I'm like, how is this the pinnacle of user experience in 2023? This is something else is going on here. Who loves that? Who's the person who absolutely loves the newsletter pop-up? I have some questions for you. Because as he writes here, we each see a unique world. I don't know who loves that. What unique world they see. Randy says, "Yeah, it gets in the way of enjoying the actual content." Absolutely. It's like I clicked on an article because it sounded interesting, but I don't get a chance to read it until clicking out all the pop-ups. I don't know you yet, but it sounded interesting. That's how I feel about it. Like, at least wait till I finish the article to ask if I want your newsletter. I don't even know if I like this article yet, let alone a subscription to future articles. Oh my god, the video ads. Yeah. He says sometimes a comment will strike home. Sometimes it'll hit a nerve, which can destroy the project. And I love that he gives some tangible advice here, because I feel like a lot of people get get really stuck with criticism. I know criticism of my stuff has really gotten me to stop sometimes. He says we can agree or double down, but he says maybe step away and reset and return with a neutral mind. Do I have an example of myself doing this? I have examples of criticism getting in my way. Um, I can still hear. So we're on episode 22 of this podcast. I can still imagine certain people in my life really hating this podcast. uh, I don't know what I would do with that imagined criticism, as I haven't actually heard what that person thinks of this podcast. But I suppose I am taking the double down approach. I am sticking with this. I think this is cool. But I guess that criticism is information about themselves, isn't it? Going back to what he said earlier, which which is what you hear about advice about comments online, is that if people crap on your work online, it's they're telling you about themselves. And it's kind of cool to like see how like certain advice that we've received throughout our lives, like Rick is kind of saying the same thing in a much perhaps deeper way. And we talked about how perhaps no feedback is okay, but also no feedback also might mean that it didn't go far enough. Um, which kind of reminds me of how this podcast started. I'd read a section of the book, and people kind of liked it, and then I'd go back to live coding. But I guess now that I've devoted to actually making this a thing, there's been a little bit more positive feedback about it. Um, I'm really happy about the folks that show up every week for it to join the discussion. It's amazing, and I guess the as I'm thinking this out loud, perhaps I need to go even further in some way to get even more feedback from more folks. Randy in the chat says, "Yeah, I guess it's interesting to think about when we are creating for others, and thus the criticisms matter more maybe versus doing it for ourselves and being confident in what we are doing for ourselves." Let's see. Let me read that one again. That was a lot there. Yeah, I guess it's interesting to think about when we are creating for others, and thus the criticisms matter more. When are we creating for others? Oh, like for like a client, or like someone like commissions some emojis or something. Yeah, I guess I'm not sure. Like, I guess that's part of the terms of that relationship of how much of your creativity do they want versus how much do they just want your skill at writing code or using a drawing program. I know for me, having side projects that are only my own has made me a better team player because I don't need to try stuff out on a team as much because I can try them out on my own projects. Yeah, I guess that's super interesting to think about. Of like in what capacity is the is the work being commissioned? I guess maybe charge more if you're not allowed to be creative or something, or the other way around. Charge more if they do want to hire your creative eye as well as the skill that you're offering. Uh, this is not business advice or whatever. I, I am super jealous though of the people that do get to be that seem to be able to be fully creative at their day job. Randy says, "Yeah, I guess most things we do at work, I suppose, is for others. Or if you are creating content for a certain audience, compared to say doing a book club because you love the book and hope others join." I got to read this one again too. Randy says, "Yeah, I guess most things we do at work is for others. Or if we are creating content for a certain audience, yeah, that's a tough one. Like I know that like like if you're riding the wave of being a content creator, there's kind of certain things you're expected to do now in 2023 that you weren't, say, 10 years ago. If you're posting videos to YouTube, you're kind of expected to promote it on Instagram, Discord, TikTok, and that maybe wasn't as important back 10 years ago or more. Um, so I guess yeah, there are certain expectations. But I think at the deepest level, I think I believe that when people see you sharing your sincere, authentic self in a skillful way, that no matter what you're doing, that's attractive. Like people eating food on YouTube, if some people just do it so well and all they're doing is eating, all they're doing, air quotes, they're just really having fun. uh, yeah, other creators come to mind too of they're just doing something that they really love, no matter what it is. If it's even if it's a topic that I'm not necessarily interested in on its own, just their excitement they bring to it makes it exciting. I mean, I guess that's kind of what I'm hoping that this book club shows as I keep getting better and better at it, at more skillfully sharing my thoughts on the book, more skillfully relating it to stuff that's useful to folks, getting better at promoting it, I guess. That it does grow into something more substantial. But even if it doesn't, like this book has been life changing for me. And so even if no one else benefits from this, I benefit from putting this out uh, every week, making it a habit. Um, yeah, I'm just I'm kind of following all the chapters. That's the habit chapter, making it a habit every week. I prep for the podcast and do it live. It happens every week, which gets me to read through the book, which gets me to really think deeply about each chapter of the book, so I can hopefully talk about it in a slightly more helpful way than someone else just reading it on their own. Yeah, I feel like at least in the circles that I've been in, that people close to me, like in the circles I've been in, are scared to share sort of their own the God within them, their own vision of the world, because they say it's not worth it. But I feel like that's perhaps, as Rick says, the only thing that matters. Randy says, "Yep," and bounce ideas off each other to spur even more thought. Yeah, for sure. I'm so grateful for you two showing up every week, and hopefully soon there'll be even more folks. or not. I mean, I'm gonna keep doing this for, I'd like to stay at least through the end of the book if nothing changes. This has been an incredibly life-changing experience for me. I still think my greatest, best work is still ahead of me. Thanks for the emojis in chat there, BitSpectre. He says here the best art divides an audience, and I feel like there's people that do want people to share their own view of the world, and there's people that don't. There's people like, it doesn't match my worldview, so I don't I don't want it at all. Uh, and I feel like is that the divide, or is it actually like, I feel like that's in a way the only divide I've seen. Oh, thanks so much for the good vibes, smooth vibes, and chill vibes redemptions in chat. A little heart. If everyone likes it, you probably haven't gone far enough. I just wonder who these audience members are that like or dislike the piece. I feel like people that value sincerity, that value sharing your inner view of the world, value other people doing it. Um, I know the stuff that I don't like is when I feel like it's folks sharing stuff that kind of clobbers kind of clobbers other people's interviews. Um, but that's a topic for another time, I suppose. In the end, you're the only one who has to love your work. The work is for you. Yeah, it seems to be that the work is your own journey to discovering your inner self. No one else can do that for you. You have to do it. You have to love it. Find out how to love it. So got about 10 more minutes and we'll swap over to beavers. But let's see, let's keep on going. When is the work done? So this was something that did also came up throughout the week. Of course, there's no formula. It's an intuition. The work is done when you feel it is. Yeah, there's stuff I felt wasn't done that I've released. There's stuff that I felt was done but also didn't release. I know that's happened too. There's stuff that I want to complete, that I want to add more to and don't have time to. Again, that's the whole meaning of the full queue of stuff to do in my name. He talks about deadlines so that they can help just finish up a project. Um, which helps prevent, I suppose, the, did he talk about inconsequential changes yet? Yeah, we make inconsequential changes. If you're on a timer, you can't make silly changes that don't matter. And I've definitely done this. I've been in on teams where that are doing this. Like, these are changes that aren't really going to affect how the audience receives it, I don't think. And not going to affect how I feel about it either. But it is tantalizing. If we just keep working, it might arrive someday. We might get there. And with an app, you just keep making it better. There's like, I feel like it's even lower of a bar. I feel like a YouTube video, you publish it and it's over, it's done. But with an app, you can literally just improve it in a week, in a month. You can deliver the next version. Randy says feelings are tricky though. Some feelings are authentic and in touch with who you really are, but some are fear and trauma based. So I have a hard time going by feelings, but I am working on it. Oh, I've got a lot to say about that. Um, I guess you're calling it the feelings that are based on fear and trauma. Yeah, I guess those are parts that are trying to protect you in some way. In my experience, that might have their own kind of view on the world that's not necessarily your core self. And in my experience, um, talking to those parts and taking them seriously, sometimes with the help of a therapist or something like that, um, they just need to feel heard and acknowledged too, just like other parts of you, just like any other normal person that you might meet, and that can help them calm down, um, and not be so scared. I've done a lot of work on this topic. Um, and especially when those feelings contradict each other, sometimes those feelings just need to talk to each other directly. Randy says, exactly. You sound like my therapist right now. Yeah, maybe one day I'll be a real trained therapist. Right now, I'm just an amateur of going through my own journey. But I feel like it does match. It does match. When I play video games, I often play as the healer of whatever game it is. Uh, so I feel like that's kind of been important to me. This part also resonated for me too. He writes, "When you believe the work before you is the single piece that will forever define you, it's difficult to let it go." And he says, instead, it's just a reflection of who you are in that moment. And I do find that freeing. This was something that used to get me stuck a lot more. I've been a lot better recently about pushing stuff out. There are things that I have seeds from like, what's it, like 2012, 2011, that I still haven't done. I don't know if I'll ever get to those, honestly, but they're still there in the back of my mind, waiting. They're seeds that I knew weren't ready, I guess, and maybe they'll never be. Speaking of seeds that aren't ready, there's that song 93 Till Infinity. I guess they had written it 2 years earlier, so the original version was actually 91 Till Infinity, which doesn't sound as nice as 93 Till Infinity. So that one worked out. Hanging on to your work is like spending years writing the same entry in a diary. Yeah, I guess he's trying to motivate to just let it go. Let yourself have more chances at bat than trying to say the same thing. That doesn't mean don't try to say the same thing in another way. Like I've seen that happen too. I've seen successful creators like had an idea for a TikTok and they actually like remade it a year later and it was like even better. Put it out and move on. We got Bit Spectre singing Disney in chat. Let it go, let it go. An opportunity to connect, another page filled in your diary of your inner life. It could be a fear of being judged, misunderstood, ignored, or disliked. Yeah, this is scary. And I guess one thing I've heard, and I'll certainly pass along, is find a way to make it safe for you. Like make it be a private account if it's social media. Make it be a completely new name if it's social media. Um, that's been super helpful for me. Like I don't want anyone that I know currently to know about this. I'm just gonna put it out and see who the algorithm brings me. For example, although will more ideas come? At least for me, I have not yet run out of ideas. I have so many more. He says, "Don't worry about releasing it until we love it." I mean, I guess he's saying that the priority is that you like it. Like that is the most important part. That is taking a step on a journey, is discovering something new that you love. If you haven't discovered something new that you love, it's not a step on the journey necessarily. Perhaps it's a failed experiment. Yeah, this is different from the work being perfect. I really don't like the words perfect or right or wrong. I feel like everything's about time and place. Uh, like which is the best restaurant? Who's the best band? Like there's so many good ones. Like what's I don't really honestly understand the point of like a top 10 list. Like maybe top 10 for like a year or like a month or something like that. Like something more limited. But these all time lists, I find very hard to digest because everything is simply an iteration. Like so, especially restaurants, like some nights the chef is just on fire, and other nights they're I don't know, maybe they're having a bad day or something. It's same thing when you're a live performer. Um, Same thing when you're a professional athlete. Some nights you see an athlete is just on fire, unstoppable, and other nights they're missing. They're missing. Bit Spectre says, I haven't watched nearly enough of your readings, but am I wrong in thinking he contradicts himself often? Take time, just do it, and whatnot. Um, well, I guess the take time bit, that's the part about discovering a seed and like experimenting and crafting, and just do it is more about uh, after you've done all those things, um, rushing to completion so that you get the benefit of understanding yourself, so that you get to time to explore something else, so that other people get to enjoy it too. It might awaken something inside of them. So I guess he says those two things at different phases of the creative act. So I guess I don't see them as contradictions. The more times we can bring ourselves to release our work, the less weight insecurity has, he writes here at the end. And I have certainly experienced that. Bitspector says, so it's written in somewhat of a timeline aspect. Yeah, I guess so far we've seen I'll put this in chat, the seeds chapter, the experimentation phase, the crafting phase, and the completion phase. And he's kind of you're kind of working in a different mode in each of these phases. At least according to him. Yeah, and I guess right at the end here, I love how he says the final phase, this completion phase, you often get a lot of ideas for what's next, which can help you to say, like, hurry up and finish this because I want to explore the next thing. So, yeah, just like we were talking about. Let's see. So I'll pause for a moment here. If anyone has any final thoughts, otherwise, I'm going to take a quick little break and we'll come back with Timberborn for beginners.